In this lecture, we will learn about process signals in Linux. Processes and signals are two important but different terms. To fully understand what process signals mean, we first need to understand each term separately, and then we will see how they work together. So, a process is simply a running program in a computer system. Whenever you open an application, run a command, or start any task on your system, a process is created. Each process has its own identity, known as a process ID, or in short, many times we see it as PID, which allows the operating system to manage it. On the other hand, a signal is like a short message that the operating system or user sends to a process, telling it that something has happened and it needs to take certain actions. For example, if you press Control C in the terminal, a signal is sent to stop the running process. So, signals are a way to interrupt, control, or communicate with processes without modifying the code of the program itself. Now, let's combine both terms. So, process signals mean sending signals to the running processes to control their behavior. So, the main purpose of using process signals in Linux is to enable communication between users and the operating system, allowing them to manage processes in real time. There are two main types of process signals in Linux: standard signals and real time signals. Standard signals are predefined signals that the operating system sends to the process to control their behavior. These signals have fixed meanings, like stopping, pausing, or terminating a process. The standard signals are also include various types, such as a sig interrupt, or in short SIG-INT, sig term for sig terminate, sig kill to kill the signal, of course, sig stop, sig CONT for sig continue, and sig SEGV for signal segmentation fault. Apart from these, there are many other standard signals as well, but these are the most important ones. Once you understand these signals, it will become easier to understand the rest of the signals. All right, let's discuss each of them one by one. The first one is sig interrupt, which is used to interrupt a process, usually when the user wants to stop it. In Linux, the command kill minus sig interrupt with the process ID of the process you want to terminate is used. Or you can press Control C in the terminal to send the signal. The second signal is sig terminate or sig term that requests a process to terminate gracefully, giving it time to save data and clean up before closing. The command kill sig term is used to send this signal. The third signal is sig kill, which are stronger signals that forcefully kill a process immediately and cannot be ignored by the process. The command kill-sig kill is used to send this signal. The next is sig stop. Signals are used to pause a running process, allowing it to be resumed later if needed. The command kill-sig stop is used to send this signal. Then sig cont or sig continue is sent to resume a stop process. It allows the process to continue running from where it was paused. And the command is simple kill-sig cont is used to send the signal. Then finally, sig segv signals are sent to a process when it tries to access an invalid memory location, often resulting in a crash known as segmentation fault. The command kill-sig segv is used to send the signal. All right, for example, if you're working on a text editor on your computer, if you press Control C, it sends a sig interrupt signal to stop the text editor immediately. Now, if you choose to close the editor from the menu, it sends a sig terminate signal, allowing the editor to save your work before closing. But if the text editor freezes and doesn't respond, you might force it to close using the task manager, which sends a sig kill signal to stop it instantly. While working, you might pause the editor to do something else, which sends a sig stop signal to temporarily pause. If the text editor is paused or stopped, it can receive a sig continue signal to resume and continue running from where it was paused. Finally, the editor tries to open a file that doesn't exist in memory. It might cause a segv signal, a segv signal, resulting in a crash due to an invalid memory signal. Invalid memory access. All right, let's move on to the second type, which is real-time signals. These signals allow processes to send extra information along with the signal, such as a number or messages, which makes them more useful for advanced tasks. Unlike standard signals that are sent one by one without any order, the real-time signals are queued, meaning they are stored in a list and processed in the exact order they arrive. There are three types of real-time signals: SIG RTMIN, SIG RT max, and intermediate signals between these two. The SIG RTMIN signals marks the beginning of the real-time signal range. This means that any real-time signal starts from this point. The SIG RT max signal is the highest number in this range and marks the end of the real-time signals. Between these both, there are other real-time signals that can be used for custom processes. These signals allow running programs to send specific messages or data to each other. All right, let's understand this with real-life example. Imagine a smart home system with different devices like lights, air conditioners, and security cameras. When the system starts, it sends a SIG-RT MIN signal to activate all connected devices. The SIG-RT max signal is used to shut down all devices at once when the system is turned off. In between these two signals, there are other real-time signals used for specific tasks. For example, one signal can be sent to turn on the lights, another to adjust the air conditioner temperature, and another to notify the security camera to start recording. These custom signals help the devices communicate with each other efficiently, making the smart home system work smoothly. I think we have talked about enough for signals, and I hope now you have got a clear idea how they work. So let's move on and practice these signals on the Linux machine. For this, log into Linux machine, and after successfully logging in, open the terminal, and after that, let's try if we are on the correct machine. To do that, let's use the whoami command to check and use hostname to see the machine. All right, we are on the right machine. Very good. Let's move on and open the Vim editor by typing the command Vim with the file name test and pressing enter. Once Vim is open, we'll switch to its insert mode by pressing the I key. After this point, we will leave Vim running as it is and open a new terminal window to check its process ID. For this, we use the command ps aux and grep for Vim, which is the command we're running on the other terminal. Here, the first process is for the Vim editor, so we take its PID ID or process ID. Now let's try to stop the Vim process by sending the sig interrupt signal. For this, we type sig-sig interrupt followed by the PID. Now let's check whether Vim has been terminated or not. Surprisingly, it hasn't. Why not? Because Vim has built-in mechanism to handle sig interrupt signal gracefully. Instead of shutting down immediately, Vim returns to command mode from insert mode. Since sig interrupt doesn't forcefully terminate Vim, we need to use a stronger signal. That's where sig kill comes in. Unlike sig interrupt, the sig kill signal cannot be ignored by any process and ensures immediate termination. To send the signal, we use the command sig-sig kill, of course, followed by the PID. Once executed, you'll see the Vim process is successfully terminated, gone. Next, we want to request Vim to terminate gracefully and give it time to save any changes before closing. We need to send the sig terminate signal. All right, let's try this by creating a new file and let's name it test1 using Vim again. And this time write something like this is a test. Now leave it running and switch it to a second terminal window to send the signal. Find the Vim process ID again and send the sig terminate signal by typing the command kill-sig term followed by the process ID. Now you can see that Vim received a sig terminate signal and the message Vim preserving files indicates that Vim safely preserved the data before shutting down. Beautiful. After cleanup, the process terminated with the confirmation message terminated. Now, if you want to open the file after sending the sig terminate signal to Vim, we will first check if there is a swap file created by Vim to temporarily save your changes before it is terminated. For this, we'll use the ls-a command, which shows all files, including hidden files in the directory. Here you can see the .test1.swap swp file. Once you find the swap file, you can recover your work by opening it with the command vim-r test1. Here the -r option tells Vim to recover the file from the swap file. Nice! After opening the recovered file, you can save it permanently by typing write and quit. Let's move on and learn how to stop and resume a process using sig stop and sig continue signals. All right, real quickly, for this we create another file named test2 using Vim editor. Then inside the editor, type some set text to simulate an active session. Now leave it running and switch it to the second terminal and check the process ID again. Let's stop this process temporarily by sending the sig stop followed by the process ID. Now, if you go back to the terminal where Vim was running, you can see it's stopped now and you can't interact it anymore. But don't worry, the process is not terminated, it's just paused. To resume the process, we need to set sig continue signal, which continues stop processes. Remember that the process must be resumed in the same terminal session where you originally started. Let's type command kill-sig continue followed by the process ID. After sending this signal, the process is resumed, but it's still running in the background. For that, to bring it to the foreground, just simply type fg command. Now you can see that Vim is back in the foreground. And you can continue editing your file without losing data. Nice. This is how you can stop and resume process in Linux using sig stop and sig continue signals. All right, now let's move on and see how to send a real-time signal. For example, if you want to check if a process is still alive, without stopping or interrupting it, you can use a real-time signal like sig srmin. For this, first we need to check the process ID of the running Vim process again. As you can see, it's the same as before. Once you have the PID, let's send the sig rtmin signal by using the kill sig rtmin command and press enter. Now switch it to the first terminal where the Vim editor is running. Here we can see the message real-time signal 0, confirming that the signal was successfully received by Vim, indicating that the process is still running. Signal 0 is commonly used to check if a process is alive without interrupting it. Similarly, you can practice sending other signals as well to see how different processes respond. Try using these terminals and practice. I hope this lecture will help you to understand how signals control processes in a Linux system.